Many years ago, there lived an emperor who cared so much about fashion and new clothes that he spent all his money just to get them. His only ambition was to always be well dressed. He didn't care about his soldiers. The theater didn't amuse him, and in fact, the only thing he thought about was going out to show off a new suit. He had a different coat for every single hour of the day. Just as you might say of a king, he is in council, people would say of him, the emperor is in his dressing room. The great city where he lived was very lively. Every day, many strangers from all over the globe arrived. One day, 2 swindlers came to the city. They scammed people into believing they were weavers and claimed they could manufacture the finest cloth imaginable. They said that not only were their colors and patterns exceptionally beautiful, but the clothes made from their fabric possessed a magical quality. They were invisible to anyone who was unfit for their job or unpardonably stupid. That must be wonderful cloth, thought the emperor. If I were dressed in a suit made of that material, I would be able to find out which men in my empire were unfit for their positions, and I could distinguish the smart people from the stupid ones. I must have this cloth woven for me without delay. So, he gave a large sum of money to the swindlers in advance so they could get to work immediately. They set up 2 looms and pretended to be working very hard, but they were doing absolutely nothing on the looms. They asked for the finest silk and the most precious gold thread. They hid all of it away in their own bags and worked at the empty looms until late into the night. I would very much like to know how they are getting on with the cloth, thought the emperor. However, he felt a bit uneasy when he remembered that anyone who wasn't fit for their job wouldn't be able to see it. Personally, he felt he had nothing to fear, yet he thought it was wise to send someone else first to see how matters stood. Everyone in town knew about the remarkable power of the fabric, and they were all anxious to see just how incompetent or stupid their neighbors were. I shall send my honest old minister to the weavers, thought the emperor. He is the best judge of how the material looks because he is intelligent, and nobody understands his job better than he does. The good old minister went into the room where the swindler sat before the empty looms. Heaven help us, he thought, opening his eyes wide. I can't see anything at all. But he didn't say that out loud. Both swindlers requested that he come closer and asked him if he didn't admire the exquisite pattern and the beautiful colors, pointing at the empty looms. The poor old minister tried his very best, but he could see nothing because there was nothing to be seen. Oh dear, he thought, am I actually stupid? I never would have thought so, and nobody must know. Is it possible that I'm not fit for my job? No, I cannot admit that I was unable to see the cloth. Well, do you have nothing to say? Asked one of the swindlers, pretending to be busy weaving. Oh, it is very pretty, exceedingly beautiful, replied the old minister, looking through his glasses. What a beautiful pattern, what brilliant colors. I shall tell the emperor that I like the cloth very much. We are pleased to hear that, said the 2 weavers, and they described the colors and explained the curious pattern to him. The old minister listened attentively so that he could repeat exactly what they said to the emperor, and that is exactly what he did. Now the swindlers asked for more money, silk, and gold thread, claiming they needed it for weaving. They kept everything for themselves, and not a single thread came near the loom, but they continued, as before, to work on the empty frames. Soon afterward, the emperor sent another honest official to the weavers to see how they were getting on and if the cloth was nearly finished. Just like the old minister, he looked and looked but could see nothing, as there was nothing there. Is it not a beautiful piece of cloth? Asked the 2 swindlers, showing off and explaining the magnificent pattern that didn't exist. I am not stupid, said the man to himself. Therefore, it must be my good job that I am not fit for. It is very strange, but I must not let anyone know. So he praised the cloth he did not see and expressed his joy at the beautiful colors and the fine pattern. It is truly excellent, he reported to the emperor. Everyone in the whole town was talking about the precious cloth. Finally, the emperor wished to see it himself while it was still on the loom. With a group of selected officials, including the 2 who had already been there, he went to the clever swindlers who were now working as hard as they could, but without using any thread. Is it not magnificent? Said the 2 old statesmen who had been there before. Your Majesty must admire the colors and the pattern. And then they pointed to the empty looms, imagining that the others could see the cloth. What is this? Thought the emperor. I don't see anything at all. This is terrible. Am I stupid? Am I unfit to be emperor? That would truly be the most dreadful thing that could happen to me. Really, he said aloud, turning to the weavers, Your cloth has our gracious approval." Nodding contentedly, he looked at the empty loom, for he did not want to say he saw nothing. All his attendants who were with him looked, and although they couldn't see anything more than the others, they said, just like the emperor, "It is very beautiful." They all advised him to wear the magnificent new clothes for the great procession that was soon to take place. "It is magnificent, beautiful, excellent," people were heard saying. Everyone seemed delighted, and the emperor gave the two swindlers the title of imperial court weavers. The entire night before the day of the procession, the swindlers pretended to work and burned more than 16 candles. They wanted people to see that they were busy finishing the emperor's new suit. They pretended to take the cloth off the loom, made cutting motions in the air with big scissors, sewed with needles that had no thread, and finally said, "The emperor's new suit is ready now." The emperor and all his barons then came to the hall. The swindlers held their arms up as if holding something and said, "Here are the trousers, this is the coat, and here is the cloak," and so on. They are all as light as a cobweb. One might feel as if one has nothing at all on the body, but that is exactly the beauty of it. "Indeed," said all the courtiers, but they couldn't see anything, for there was nothing to be seen. "Does it please your majesty to graciously strip down to your undergarments," said the swindlers, "so that we may assist your majesty in putting on the new suit in front of the large mirror?" The emperor took off his clothes until he was standing in just his undershorts. The swindlers then pretended to put the new suit upon him, one piece after another, fitting it over his underwear. The emperor looked at himself in the mirror from every angle. "How well it looks! How well it fits!" everyone said. "What a beautiful pattern! What fine colors! That is a magnificent suit of clothes." The master of ceremonies announced that the bearers of the canopy, which was to be carried in the procession, were ready. "I am ready," said the emperor. "Does my suit not fit me marvelously?" He turned once more to the mirror so that people would think he was admiring his garments. The chamberlains, who were supposed to carry the train of the robe, stretched their hands toward the ground as if lifting up a train and pretended to hold something in their hands. They didn't want anyone to know they couldn't see anything. The emperor marched in the procession under the beautiful canopy, and everyone in the street and at the windows exclaimed, "Indeed, the emperor's new suit is incomparable. What a long train he has! How well it fits him!" Nobody wanted to let others know they saw nothing, for that would mean they were unfit for their office or too stupid. Never had an emperor's clothes been more admired. "But he is only wearing his underwear," said a little child at last. "Good heavens! Listen to the voice of an innocent child," said the father, and people began whispering to one another what the child had said. "He is only wearing his underwear. He has no suit on at all." The whole crowd finally cried out. That made a deep impression on the emperor, for it seemed to him that they were right. But he thought to himself, "I must bear up and finish the procession." So he stood taller with even greater dignity, and the chamberlains continued walking, holding up the train that didn't exist.